talking about community well-being through maybe a little bit of a different lens than we have here in SNAC. And we're going to be talking about community well-being through art and placemaking. So we have our friends here to talk, and we're going to start off the conversation today talking a little bit more about your favorite part of the community in which you live. So as we come in here, if you'll introduce yourself in the chat and share more with us about your favorite part about the community in which you live. This could be a wide variety of reasons, or it could be something related to outside or community centers or whatever that might mean for you. We'd love to hear. And welcome to everyone who's just joining us. We're just going through our welcome introductions and our fun question on the screen, and then we'll get started. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome, Kristen. Yes, Maya, I frequent Bloomington as I went there for my graduate degree, and I agree with that. I'm in the Southport area of Indianapolis, and we have some really nice libraries that have a lot of different events for kids and adults, and it's really fun to engage in that way. Feel free as you are coming in here to introduce yourself and tell us more about your favorite part of the community in which you live. If you can't think of anything, that's okay. We can always come back. Honey. Lots of opportunities to get involved. Absolutely. I agree with that. Welcome, Mindy. Lakes. Fantastic. Marcia, welcome. The bike trail. Fantastic. It's like a forest in the middle of a city. Getting some green space where you're at. I love that. Welcome, Lacey. The big and small town feel. 2 in 1. Welcome, Jessica. Ohio County, beautiful riverfront history and people. Yes, I've been over in that area. It's very beautiful. And yes, the sculpture trails. Thanks, Bridget. Welcome. Awesome. Well, thanks, guys. We'll go ahead and get moving here as we look at our objectives for today. So we have our friends from the Indiana Arts Commission and the Indiana Housing and Community Development Authority here to talk more about art and placemaking and how that really plays a role in health outcomes and community engagement and just all around community well-being. So these are what we're going to go through today as we listen to our presenters. So I'm going to go through our presenters, and then I will hand it over to you, Maya, to get started. So we have Maya Michelson. She is the Executive Director of the Indiana Arts Commission here today. And then we have Bridget Anderson with Patronicity in the Indiana Housing and Development Authority partnership that we're going to be talking a little bit more about. And then Megan Heber with the Indiana Housing and Community Development Authority, specifically the Environmental Review Manager in that team, as it is a large one. So thank you all so much for joining us today. And Maya, I'm going to hand it over to you to share and get us started. And as we're going through these presentations, if you all have questions, please feel free to put them in the chat, and we will have some time at the end of each presentation to go through and answer some questions. So thank you so much for joining us, and we will share the presentations and any of the resources after the webinar concludes on our website. So thank you so much for being here, Maya. If you want to go ahead and get going.
Yeah, fantastic. So just want to check in and make sure folks can see my screen and see my deck. Am I up?
Yes, I can see it.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, so as Julia mentioned, I'm here to talk a little bit about health and well-being through a different lens, and that's arts and creativity. So appreciate.
And Maya, we can now see just your a lot of files on your desktop. There you go.
Fantastic. Okay, that's what I get for being too smart or trying to be too clever and moving it to my other screen. So we'll leave it here. So fantastic. So again, thanks to Julia for the opportunity to talk about community well-being through a different lens, and that's arts and creativity. So we're the Indiana Arts Commission, and our focus is on strengthening Indiana through arts and creativity. I want to talk to you a little bit about why arts and creativity belong in every community. First and foremost, arts and creativity improves Hoosiers' health and well-being, and I'll talk a little bit more specifically about how here in a couple of minutes. The arts sector generates economic benefits. Participation in the arts improves learning outcomes and students' career readiness. Creativity is a skill that's sought after by employers. And you'll hear more about this from Bridget and Megan here in a few minutes, but people want to be where they have access to both a variety of creative activities and vibrant places where they feel welcome and inspired. But we're here to talk about health and well-being, and that's where I'm going to focus comments and remarks today. So how does arts and creativity impact health? Because I bet you're thinking, oh, I'll just bet the Arts Commission just says that about everything, right? So, but actually there's great data and research around how arts and creativity impacts health. The University of Florida has an initiative called the Center for Arts and Medicine, and what they do is study arts and cultural impact in a variety of outcomes related to health and well-being. And I've put the link to actually see this framework on their website, and I will send this deck to Julia when we're done, and she can make it available to you. And I would encourage you to take a look, because there's great research here around all the ways that arts and culture and arts and creativity create positive health and well-being outcomes for people. Things like reduced loneliness and isolation, more welcoming and inclusive spaces, growing and aging in place, enables dialogue across groups, eliminates community needs and priorities, lots of different ways that arts and creativity can support community well-being outcomes. And so there's tons of research out there on that, and a great place to start with that is here with the University of Florida Center for Arts and Medicine. So can't say enough about that site and what it offers. So want to talk a little bit more about some of the direct health benefits that arts and culture provides. It's increasingly associated with improved health and well-being, healthier aging, and stronger communities. Many arts and culture-based strategies provide direct and immediate health benefits, such as increased physical activity, stress reduction, increased social cohesion, bringing people together, and reduced loneliness, better coping with chronic conditions, and increased happiness and well-being. So here's a little, on the right-hand side of the slide is some actual specific data and research around specific positive health outcomes that arts and creativity have shown to benefit. Did you know music has a positive effect on your blood pressure? So, you know, research has shown that people who have exposure to music, their blood pressure goes down. They're more relaxed. They're more calm, and there are quite a few hospitals that now employ music therapy and music performance opportunities for people in hospital, recognizing that it helps lower blood pressure and helps people relax and be calm. Again, that only makes sense, right? When you're listening to music or certain kinds of music, it can be relaxing and calming, and many people use music as sort of a calming and meditative practice. But it isn't just music. Public art has a significant impact on public health. Some research around residents who were exposed to a mural that had been recently completed in their community reported that they had increased social cohesion and trust among neighbors, as well as informal social control, and also a decrease in stigma toward individuals with mental health or substance abuse challenges, which again, you wouldn't necessarily think a mural might do that, but lots of research out there, in particular around collaborative arts making, such as murals and performances, and how they change how people feel about their neighbors and how they feel about those most vulnerable in the community, such as folks who may be struggling with mental health or have substance abuse issues. Individuals who engaged weekly in the development of a community engaged public art program reported decreased levels of stress. On the left-hand side are some actual indicators from that Center for Arts and Medicine website at the University of Florida, where you can actually click on some drop-down boxes and see specific research around all these social determinants of health, just to show you the wide range of benefits that arts and creativity brings to health and wellness. Don't know how much you might have paid attention to what the Surgeon General does or says, but made news back in April when the Surgeon General of the United States put forth the statement that the United States has a loneliness problem. Loneliness, isolation, lack of social cohesion is a significant both mental health and physical health issue in the United States. And it's the first time the Surgeon General has spoken to something that's sort of outside of what we might consider disease and health, but to speak to actual mental health and loneliness. And so there's been quite a bit of conversation around how to improve and increase social cohesion and reduce loneliness in people, which has led to a lot of articles and reporting around potential interventions. On the left-hand side, a story from the New York Times about how the arts can benefit your mental health, and touching on some of the things I've talked about previously, which is all the ways that arts can improve mental health through giving you an opportunity to master a skill, to learn something new, to be in communion with other people, have just an opportunity to create something that's yours and yours alone. On the right-hand side is a story about the growth in workshops where people come together and just make something or do something or learn something. Folks who want to interact and connect with people outside of screen time, right? Which is what we're doing right now. But the importance of communal coming together around arts making to learn a new skill, or to have an opportunity to connect in a meaningful way. So how arts support health equity and inclusion. And there's a lot of great research and data around how working with arts and creativity can provide opportunities to build health equity and include and bring folks in that you might not be engaging with through your traditional pathways to engage in health and well-being and nutrition, education, and programming. So arts and culture can help create safe, inclusive, and engaging environments because they employ personal and cultural expression and representation. Their incorporation into non-art spaces like health and social service facilities can help reflect and elevate local and cultural values and narratives, which in turn can increase comfort and inclusivity. So arts programs generate new spaces for inclusive gatherings. So thinking about how you might create a health and wellness program that you might partner with a local arts organization and do it at their theater or do it at their art center is going to bring you, or it's going to encourage people to come to a space that maybe they might have some familiarity with, and or may feel a little less concerned or threatened or comfortable in. And so partnering with arts and culture, especially as it relates to spaces and places and people, can bring some real benefit in that the arts also make ordinary moments extraordinary. Walking into a theater, you just feel different about yourself and sort of what you might be experiencing when you walk into a theater or in an art center. You know, thinking about doing programming in a gallery, or think about bringing health programming to a community arts festival, is going to get you people who, again, might not walk through your door ordinarily, or will certainly be coming to your programming with a different frame of mind than they might if they were just walking into your facility or, you know, into a traditional health and wellness or nutrition setting. They're just going to be in a different place. Arts, let's face it, arts are just more fun. We kind of bring the party bus to everything that we touch. And so thinking about how you can, again, get new audiences in, engage folks in a different way. The arts are a great pathway to do that. They also increase equity and access. When health and social services are physically integrated with arts and cultural services, access increases. When they're together, arts, health and social services can enhance utilization of both, which results in direct and long-term health benefits. As I mentioned earlier, arts and cultural physical spaces and experiences offer a sense of connection and safety. And sometimes folks don't access health and well-being spaces because they feel like maybe they're going to be criticized, or it's going to be negative, or it's going to be deficit focused or whatever. And arts and creativity just doesn't bring that. Arts and creativity brings connection, and people recognize and associate arts and creative spaces with safety, which is really important, again, when you're trying to gain trust around issues related to health and well-being and nutrition. Arts and cultural physical spaces and experiences often reflect local cultural traditions, which can be better leveraged to better understand how to deliver services designed to improve well-being. Where better to engage the Latino community than at a Latino music festival, right? They're there already. Their culture is front and center of an event or an experience like that. You're coming into their space and understanding what's important to them and the experiences that are valuable to them. And again, that's an opportunity to also to bring programming, but then also to engage in conversation about how to develop programs that will better serve them. So cultural festivals, cultural programming are great opportunities to bring health and well-being into that space because folks are already there and ready to engage. The arts too. The arts are also working to increase equity, inclusivity, and access. We know we've got work to do. We here at the Arts Commission are working diligently around inclusion, diversity, equity, and access. But we and the other arts organizations that we support in the arts programming around the state, we're all working in this space. And so I think collaboration between arts and creativity and health and well-being can help identify blind spots in both areas and develop effective solutions together toward achieving more equitable services and systems. Partnering with an arts organization might bring new folks to that arts organization, right? And there are real significant benefits to that work as well. So again, we all have the opportunity to learn and grow in this space, and partnering with arts and creativity in this, I think, is a value add for both arts and health. So again, just more data from this arts and medicine site about other positive health outcomes in partnering with arts and creativity, including mobility and exercise, growing and aging in place. I'll talk a little bit more about that here in a few minutes. Building civic pride and engagement, increased racial and social equity, elevation of underrepresented voices, and so forth. So arts and creativity can really bring equity into the conversation in really exciting ways. And again, lots of data to see it, because sometimes when I have conversations with what I'd say non-traditional arts audiences and I talk about these things, the first question I get is, where's the data? Show me the numbers. And luckily, and specifically in this space, there's a lot of data around, again, the positive impacts of arts and creativity on health. And when you go back to your leadership, being able to point to this data may be really helpful in building support for going a little bit out of your lane and reaching out and engaging with an arts and cultural organization to partner, or planning a program that includes arts and creativity in a way that maybe you haven't before. So this is I want to show this video. It's short, it's only about 3 minutes long, but it's a great example of a community building program that incorporates health and well-being, cohesion, arts, community building, and so forth. And it took place in Akron, Ohio. And what they were doing was trying to determine how best to take this piece of interstate, which or highway that they were about to close and bulldoze, and what they should do with this space. So instead of just putting up some flip charts and asking people to write down some ideas, they decided to engage in an interactive, engaging community input session incorporating arts and health and community building called 500 Plates. And I'd love, it's a great example of how to do this work in community. Can you hear it? Oh, shoot.
No, we can't hear it. Let's see.
Actually, to be honest, Julia, this is just music. So if you don't hear the music, in fact, really, I think it is all music.
Okay.
So I'll stop and just talk a little bit about what they did. Was that they gathered a recipe from each of the neighborhoods that they brought into this conversation, and those recipes were then silk screened. You could see the transfer of the recipe onto plates. They got local restaurants to donate food, and they came together in a shared meal and a shared conversation about what the future of this particular area of Akron was going to be. And they invited folks to just write their ideas on the butcher paper that you see at the top of the slide. They had music, they had games. It was very casual around breaking bread and being in conversation around how to take this soon to be unused stretch of road and turn it into something exciting that would support neighborhood health and well-being in Akron. So that it was a pretty significant project, but at the end of the day, it was a table and food and some art, right? Some live music and some opportunity to be together in fellowship to come up with ideas around again how to reactivate a stretch of highway that they were about to eliminate. So let me.
If you want I can try to share it I pulled it up on my screen. We can see if my audio works.
Yeah, see if your audio works, and then we'll show, because I think it's a great project. Yeah, I'm not getting audio from. Yeah.
Okay, let me.
No, you know what? I mean, I think people get the gist of it. It will be in the deck. The link for it will be in the deck, so folks can watch. Again, it's just a great example of how to leverage place, but then also arts and creativity and health and well-being and the arts, again, to have a community conversation around strengthening a community. So I think I think it's a great project and a great example of how to do that work. So let me go to my, whoop. Can you see my deck? Oh, can you see my deck?
There you go. I just stopped sharing. I wanted to see if I could get it on my screen, but that's okay. Yeah, it'll be in the slide deck. And it is a cool video, so y'all should check it out when we send it.
Yeah. All right, let me get to my next slide here. Hang on. It is not wanting me to do that, so give me just a second. So anyway, it's a great example of how to, and now my screen is frozen up. Of course, hang on, give me a sec. Of course, it's gonna happen. Here we go. I'm getting back here. All right, hang on. I'm coming here. That's what I get for trying to put video in here. So there we go. Next slide. Okay. And we, all right. Can you see me? Can you see my slide? Fantastic. Yes. All right. Sorry, technical difficulties. So here's another great opportunity or a great project that incorporated arts into a trail. This is a trail in California where they invited artists to come and do live performances, art installations, and so forth. Again, pretty in-depth program, but again, something very simple like this can be adapted in a community that's got a trail. Obviously, not every community's got a bagpiper in it, but a lot of communities have people who play guitar or play other musical instruments. So again, thinking about incorporating the arts into trails or into runs or so forth, are ways to get people moving down the trail. And again, great and fun way to incorporate arts into a wellness exercise. Another program that is done in Seattle, which is essentially just live music and dancing in parks. They have different music every month, and opportunity for people to dance together. I think this was, I can't remember if this was square dance or Irish jig or whatever, but again, Seattle has a very active program called Dancing Till Dusk that they've done for years, again, which is just incorporating arts and public health in a public park with live music, and they do about 5 minutes worth of dance instruction for people who want it, and then otherwise you just cut them loose and they dance literally till it gets dark. So another great program. This is a program from in Louisville, where they worked with an arts organization called Smoketown Voice, where they worked with local photographers to put positive images of community members working together, and they did a series of billboards to help strengthen community bonds around public health and collaboration and being in community together. Another very simple, not a complex idea, but I've also seen this done with not just with billboards, but with yard signs and other sorts of things where organizations, public health and arts organizations have worked together to put messages created by artists that are positive around public health and the arts and in community. So this is a great example down from Louisville. So this is the program that we offer at the Arts Commission called Lifelong Arts. And this is putting artists together with older adults so that our older adults have the opportunity to learn a creative skill or have the opportunity to express themselves creatively. And that research shows it reduces loneliness and isolation and helps connect older adults with each other. And I'll talk a little bit more about how, if you're interested, you can find more information out about that program. We're really proud of that. And we continue to expand it across the state. Here's another lifelong artist who was teaching Mexican paper flower making to a group of older adults in a community center in Indiana. So that's Lifelong Arts Indiana. Again, designed for older adults to help, frankly, reduce social isolation and create better health outcomes in partnership with the Division of Aging at FSSA. So we're really proud of that program. So, and here's one of our favorite images from Lifelong Arts Indiana. This is a dance artist who worked with a group of older adults to teach them dance. And you can see Lifelong Arts embraces older adults with all variety of skills and abilities as it relates to learning and exploring dance. But Julia had asked me to talk a little bit about, if this is of interest to you, how do you engage arts partners in community well-being? So if you want to get something going in your community, how do you do that? How does that happen? So how do you find partners? You can start with us and our regional arts partner network. We're divided into 11 regions. Don't ask me where 11 went. It's a long story. But anyway, we've got 11 regions around the state. And we have a partner organization, each one of those regions. That's a great point of connection related to finding artists. But where to find other kinds of arts organizations? If you're looking to partner, obviously social media, local government, your local community development entity, your local community foundation, your tourism bureau, your festivals or community events is a great place to find arts organizations. Also your local arts council. I have people all the time that ask me, well, how do I find artists? Well, they're all over the place, right? But places you can look include arts organizations, festivals, social media, craft stores, farmers markets, Etsy, quilt guilds, scrapbookers, church choirs, square dance groups, artists are everywhere if you know where to look and you know how to look. And again, if you're interested in connecting with creatives in your community, whether those are organizations or people, we at the Arts Commission can help you do that. That's what we're here for, and that's what our regional arts partner is here to help support you in. And so how to start the conversation if you want to connect with artists or arts organizations in your community. We just start with finding common ground, spend time understanding what they do, who their audience is, where they do what they do, what their goals are for the community, and then share what you do, who your audience is, and your goals. And once you're both arts and health and well-being are looking to strengthen community. And so finding common ground and how to do that is a great way to forge a partnership that may be the first time that you've worked together. It may be the first time you've worked with them, and it more than likely is the first time they've worked with you. But starting with learning about each other and talking about shared goals for community well-being is a great place to build alliances and get people excited about partnering together as it relates to supporting health and well-being. So here's some resources. So we've got, through us and our arts partner network, we have arts project support, which is funding for a series of arts activities, which include a mural or a performance, classes, concerts, or a partnership between public health or a health providing organization and an arts organization or an artist. Applications traditionally open in late December, early January, deadline late February, early March. That's an annual program, and 501c3s, units of government, schools, etc., are eligible to apply. So it's open to pretty much anyone in the not-for-profit sector. And then Lifelong Arts Indiana, which is some of the images I showed earlier. That's the program that trains and funds creative opportunities for aging services providers, as well as artists, to provide creative arts experiences for older adults. That is a program that's ongoing, and we provide that in partnership with FSSA's Division of Aging. If you're interested in that, reach out to me directly, and I will put you in touch with the program manager that supports that program. We are looking to get that program statewide, and we are working to make Indiana the national model on how to improve health and wellness outcomes for older adults through arts and creativity. So if you want to be part of that groundbreaking work, we'd love to work with you and tell you more about what we're doing there. Also, your local community foundation can be a great source of support for arts and creativity and health and well-being partnerships through local giving and funding that they provide. I didn't put Bridget and Megan and Patronicity here. I usually would, but I knew they were going to talk about themselves, and they're much better spokespeople for their work than we are, although we refer folks to the important work that they're doing across the state all the time. They are huge partners. But then also I would be remiss if I didn't mention the Indiana Destination Development Corporation. They have provided funding for public murals, which can be a community building activity, which can reduce isolation and build social cohesiveness in communities. Their funding timeline varies. The last cycle they offered was in March of 2023. I expect they're going to offer another cycle at the beginning of next year, but that is another possible opportunity. And anybody can do a mural. It doesn't just have to be an arts organization. And thinking about what could be a very visible reminder in community about the importance of public health. What better way to do that than with a mural that's there all the time, right? That people can see all the time. So a mural could be a really powerful and positive way to reinforce a public health message in a community through arts and creativity. So the Idea Hub, again, this will be in the deck that Julia shares with you, the University of Florida Center for Arts and Medicine, which I've already shared with you. And then there's a great national organization called the Project for Public Spaces that has a lot of great ideas and stories of inspiration around public spaces and how to activate public spaces so that people get out, get active, get engaged with each other, because we do know that when possible, great opportunities to connect are in the great outdoors and out in our public spaces and plazas and courtyards and parks and so forth. And they're a great hub for ideas and inspiration in that space. So that's me. On the left-hand side is a great public art installation, temporary pop-up installation that was down in Batesville, done by the Batesville Area Arts Council, called Umbrellas in the Sky, Umbrella Sky Project, that helped bring people out around something that is kind of simple, putting a bunch of umbrellas on fishing line and stringing them out, but they created a gorgeous canopy where people got out and got inspired and got connected with each other. So public art and public art activities don't have to be complex and difficult. But the common thing around them all is that they engage people in arts and creativity, which, as I've talked about, has a lot of fantastic public benefits. So I'm going to stop sharing and answer any questions anybody might have. I've probably just exhausted you, and that's fine. But anyway, I'm going to stop sharing. Any questions anybody's got?
So much great information, Maya. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, so many cool ideas. If you all have questions, feel free to enter them in the chat, or you can come off mute and ask Maya. We'll take a few questions here before moving on to the next presentation. And then if you have questions later too, we can always forward those along. Are there specific opportunities for cultural centers?
So yeah, great question. Cultural centers would absolutely be, would fit into the arts project support categories that relates to our funding in particular. And depending sort of on what you might be thinking about, you know, obviously, well, Bridget can speak to this, I mean, and Megan, Patronicity, I think, you know, could certainly offer some opportunities there, but absolutely arts project support for a cultural center in particular, whether it's specifically a cultural program or whether it's an arts meets health program, would absolutely qualify for an arts project support grant. So thanks to Connie for dropping that in the chat. You can actually, Connie, if you wouldn't mind maybe dropping a link to how to subscribe to our newsletters in there if you haven't already. That way you can be up to date with all our funding opportunities and other things that you may want to engage with or learn more about that we do here at the Arts Commission.
Yes, absolutely. I love that plug. They will have more up-to-date information than we will. So yes, there we go. Thanks, Connie. Can sign up for newsletters there to learn more. Any other questions? Thank you for that great question. Okay, then we will go ahead and move on over to Bridget and Megan. And if questions come up as we're listening and there are connections between the presentations, we'll have time at the end too to answer any questions you have. Feel free to drop them in as we go.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Julia. And thank you so much, Maya. Oh my gosh. I feel like you really teed this up for me, providing all this really valuable data. And I think oftentimes Bridget and I are sort of on the implementation side of things. And so we get really excited about funding projects, but providing that why is just so important, and understanding why these projects matter to communities, and that data really speaks to that. So thank you so much for providing all of that. And also I need to remember to sign up for your newsletter too. So I'll remember to do that before the end of the presentation also. So my name is Megan Heber. I work for the Indiana Housing and Community Development Authority and help with the Creating Places program alongside Bridget, who's with me here on the call today. I'm going to chat through some of the slides, and then Bridget's going to jump in on her side of things as well. And we'll just go ahead and get started. So the first thing, I think, as far as slides go, I already talked about IHCDA, but our mission is really around supporting communities, strengthening communities, and providing housing opportunities and promoting self-sufficiency. Obviously, this program, Creating Places, is really focused on placemaking and transforming public space. And so that really speaks to the strengthening communities part of IHCDA's mission. The Creating Places program, we work with patronicity, and it's place-based. It's a crowd granting program, which is maybe a term you might be familiar with, but might not be. And we're going to go into that in just a little bit. But we really want to empower residents, members of the public, to have a voice and a role in transforming their public space into something that they can use, and really building community pride around that space. So we have a whole bunch of really great photos. Sorry, Bridget, I might have you go back just a couple. I'm jumping around just a little bit here. There we go. So at the very beginning, Julie asked the question, what's your favorite part about your community? And I think that really speaks to the heart of our program, which is building public space around your community's assets. What makes your community special, unique, and wonderful. So if you see that very middle picture there, that's what's called the Kindness Mural in Madison, Indiana. Madison has not only a really beautiful historic downtown, but they also have a really vibrant arts community. And so why not put those two things together? Take existing assets, things that people already love about Madison, and put them together. And so the arts community there really rallied around this idea of spreading just an important word for all of us, which is to be kind to everyone. And so they built this, or painted this really beautiful mural. And I'm so glad that Maya mentioned murals a lot, because we have a lot of murals in this presentation. And you'll see some of those in some of these other photos as well. But, you know, a lot of small communities, large communities, you have open public spaces, maybe some fields that could be turned into something that the community could collaborate on. You have a downtown that needs to be activated and encourage people to join together in. And art is such a really special way to bring people together. Typically for us, we would probably, when talking about health, we would probably be talking about community gardens or fitness parks or things like that. But what's so cool is what Maya said, is so important, is that art really has to do with public health and combating that loneliness epidemic, combating how isolated people oftentimes are, especially coming out of the isolation of COVID, and people want to come together in their communities and create beautiful things. And so that's really what we're all about. So, like I said, Bridget will get into like the specifics of the program, but over the course of the program since we started back in 2016, we have seen community members come together to raise just shy of $9 million in funding. And so we have groups crowdfund on the front end. They build community support around an idea for a project. And then IHCDA is really excited and happy to partner with those communities with grant funds if they successfully meet a specific financial goal. And so IHCDA has matched just shy of $7.3 million over the lifetime of the program. We've seen 233 projects across the state, which is pretty astounding. And then, just shy of 50,000 people have helped contribute to these projects. I think Bridget, are you jumping in on this one, or am I doing this one? Oh, sorry, Bridget, you're muted.
Sorry, my taskbar disappeared and I sort of panicked. Apologies, but yeah, thanks so much, Megan. Yeah, I am super excited to join this conversation as well. So much of what we do in partnership with IHCDA to manage creating places is rooted in all of those things that Maya talked about: well-being, connection to people, connection to place. And so my job is I get to work at Patronicity. We are a crowdfunding platform. And it really is designed similar to other funding models in the idea that your community should be the review committee for the grant. And so how it really works is that folks would identify an opportunity for growth or change in the community. And so when we're talking about arts, look for those blank walls, look for those empty spaces. Is there a space that's particularly a challenge or an eyesore? Because those are actually your biggest assets. And so many times we talk about our program is transform vacant or unused space into something that is usable for the public. And so when that happens, you have an opportunity to uniquely get creative, because if there's nothing there are limitless possibilities. So my job is to make sure to provide one-on-one coaching to help you manage the crowdfunding aspect of this grant program, to also make sure IHCDA can approve the funding and that your project is a good fit. And then I also help you brainstorm how to fundraise locally. And one of the things I think is really important that we talk and that I'm going to talk about later is the idea that engaging your community in investing, financially giving, is actually good for those donors as well. So we'll talk a little bit about that. But a lot of times people can get a little worried or overwhelmed. This slide is maybe
Bridget,
out of order.
I think we lost your slides, or maybe I can't see them and everyone else can. I'm not sure.
Oh no. Hold on.
I'm not seeing them either, but I'm happy to share as well.
Okay, let's try this again. Okay, can you see them now?
Yes.
Yes.
Perfect. So I think our slides are a little out of order. I apologize. It's similar to Maya, we're having some technical difficulties. But this is a map of the state showing you just how many Creating Places projects exist near you. You can find that at patronicity.com/creatingplaces. And what's so crazy is we almost have the entirety of the state covered at this point. So whether you're in a rural community or in a very urban community, projects are, you have an opportunity to find a creative or placemaking project that's near you to find some inspiration. And we're really also want you to be inspired by things other communities have done. But I do want to also talk about why crowdfunding. A lot of times when we talk about crowdfunding for creative placemaking and arts projects, people think, they have a perception about what crowdfunding is. We know through our work that crowdfunding is not a replacement for traditional fundraising. In order to give you access to the funds, you should consider your neighbors and your friends as your social capital, right? So for us, our platform is really designed to make it easy and accessible for people to give. That IHCDA's grant funds are decentralized, allowing folks to quickly and easily understand and access the granting process. It's a great storytelling tool. So if you have to kind of go out and sell your arts projects to the community, sometimes it can be complicated, but having the visual representation of the spaces you want to create are also vitally important. And then most important, and this is where the well-being part comes in, is that it facilitates community engagement. Asking your neighbor for help and support can be challenging, but it's also really important. Megan, are these yours? I think these slides are very out of order.
Yeah, they are. I can take them on for sure. I can talk through our eligibility for the program. So the best part about the Creating Places program is that we utilize, for the grant component, we utilize state funds, not federal funds, which means that they're a lot more accessible than your average grant funds might be if you were applying for a federal grant. And so there's a few things that we require. Applicant has to be a local unit of government or a 501c3 or C4 organization. And we do want to see the activation of underutilized or unused or even vacant new public space. So we don't really necessarily want to see something that's already really being used, just slightly changed. We want to see something that's not being used turned into something that the community can enjoy. And this can include streetscape beautification, creation of public amenities like river walks, farmers markets. We love like festival events. We already talked a little bit about the importance of bringing people together around arts related activities, around live music and things like that. We love to see those kinds of activations through our funding. Public plazas, alley activations, and park enhancements. And we'll have some additional really cool photos to show you as we progress here. We do want these to be strategically quick projects because your community members are giving to these funding campaigns. They're not going to be super excited to give you, $200 towards a project and then have that project take 10 years to complete. And so we really want to see that project after receiving our grant funds finished within a year. We do allow a little bit of flexibility because we do know that things happen, life happens, and so sometimes we have to extend that deadline, but we want to see these projects done quickly. And the maximum amount that you can fundraise for and get matched by IHCDA is $50,000. We do see sometimes projects have a larger scope than that and utilize our funds as the last dollars in. But for the most part, a lot of these projects are fairly small. Something like a large mural on a wall can really go a long way in activating space, but can be done very quickly. We do have a preference for projects that are walkable, that increase accessibility so that everyone in the community can be a part and can enjoy that space. And of course, we want to see those community assets really come to light as you develop your project. So really capitalizing on the identity of your community, the history and culture, and the things that are strong about your community and making them better. And just a quick note, if you are intending on doing a project in a historic district that involves a historic registry, we might have to do some additional review for that, same with a floodway. But the great news is that's where I come in as kind of understanding some of those state regulations, and I am here to help you with that process every step of the way. And like I mentioned, the funding is a maximum of $50,000 and a minimum of $5,000. So we're really looking for projects that have a total budget of $10,000 to $100,000, being that you would crowdfund half of that on the front end. And if you meet your goal within a 30 or 60 day time frame from your community around you, then IHCD would match the goal amount that you raised. You can always also raise more. We've seen, you probably noticed earlier when I was saying that community members gave 8 million and IHCDA funded about 7 million. That just goes to show that community members often give above and beyond. They want to give their money or their volunteer time to support projects like this. And you just never know who might come out of the woodwork to support a fundraising campaign. And then I just wanted to mention too, if you don't meet your goal, you are not eligible to receive the match, but you are eligible to receive any dollars that you fundraise. And am I doing budget, Bridget, or are you doing budget?
I think I'm doing budget. So
Okay.
sorry.
No worries.
Yeah. So one of the things you might be thinking is like, even if you have a great artist and you have a great idea, how do you decide how much you need? And we actually want this process to be pretty painless and simple. This is an example of a project in Bedford. They created the community garden, which obviously the importance of creating a space where you can physically grow things is really important. So we actually approach the budget process in a very simple way. We want you to list out your expected expenses. So that gives us an overall total. And then to determine how much you raise, identify any existing funds, and then just break your total in half. So in this case, they needed $135,000. They already had $65,000 from the Bedford Urban Enterprise, and they knew their parks department could chip in 20, so that left $50,000 that they needed. And so they raised $50,000, I'm sorry, $25,000 on our platform. And then because they raised their goal amount, they got the match from IHCDA. So we have a budget form that helps you identify that. And we can provide other examples of projects that might be best suited for your project. The cool thing is we want to show you what a crowdfunding campaign looks like. And my job is to help you build the page, but also just want to point out some important things that you'll want to keep in mind. This is the Indie Night Market. Again, a really cool, unique way to engage community members, to bring them together, to have a farmer's market at night. This was a project through the Growing Places Indie, a nonprofit in Indianapolis. And it's pretty simple. The building the page of the crowdfunding part is actually the application for the grant. So you're going to need some clear things that you would need for the grant. You're going to have a good goal. We'll help you come up with a catchy title. You want some imagery that gives people a sense of what you're doing, and including images and rendering. But my job is to help you navigate that process. So hopefully you don't get too caught up in the technical side, because we provide that technical assistance. As you can see, this project was a success, but donors donate directly on this page. And a donation can be as small as $3 all the way up to 35% of your goal, or $10,000. And that's a really great opportunity. And in this case, you see this project has over 100 people that it donated. That 100 people is now a powerful network, so they can show up at the market. They can, continue to volunteer with groups and organizations, right? So it's a unique way to build actual capital as well as social capital. The other thing to keep in mind is we can accept what we call offline donations. So traditional fundraisers and events like a car wash or a bucket shake are still eligible to be matched by IHCDA, which is also really important because, as Maya mentioned, when it comes to accessibility, we don't want people to feel like they have to donate large amounts. And many community members don't have the capacity to donate directly, but what they might have is connections to networks. And that is really the most important thing. We also, on the platform, have a volunteer button. You can see that in the bottom. So if people can't donate directly, they're uncomfortable sharing the campaign, they could volunteer with your organization. So you can, again, have more connections and real in-life connections to this network that you're building online. So I did want to share a couple of projects. This one in particular, this is an arts asset. This is the South Bend Civic Theater. And this is what it looked like before. It had this burned out old abandoned building out front. The cool thing is the city of South Bend said, okay, we'll get rid of it. We'll get it out of here. But what do we want to put in that space? How do we bring neighbors who may not know or have engaged with theater and arts into the space? So they decided to build their Folkley Plaza. And this is the super cool result. So this again is a really simple activation of space. They put down planters, these sunshades, put in a little grass, and then some kind of concrete dividers just to designate the space from the sidewalk. They invited some local artists to come out and sing and to play music. They also do outdoor performances in this space of the theater productions. And then they have a nice little food truck. So again, their goal was to raise 25,000. They raised 25,000, but 94 donors really ensured that this project would be used and accessible. So again, this is very specific for our program, but I do want to hit some important things. Again, the page is your application for the grant. I help you navigate that. But what makes this also an innovative program is IHCDA's review process is very quick. They give us 3 business days to provide approval, so you know before your campaign is launched that you'll potentially qualify for the match. There's also a quote from the Lieutenant Governor included in your press release, and IHCDA's team announces your campaign, which also, again, has an opportunity to amplify your campaign. And then also, we give you a lot of campaign prep. We have a ton of resources on Patronicity. It's resources.patronicity.com, which I'll also share, post this. But again, you'll run the campaign for 30 to 60 days. You want to create a lot of energy and momentum for the project. So Megan, do you want to talk about the Putnam County Mural Project?
Absolutely. Of course I do. We love sharing before and after photos, just of a couple of really great examples to kind of inspire you. And this is probably our most visible project that we've ever helped assist on. I believe the Arts Commission was involved in this project as well, which just goes to show that a lot of people came together to make this thing happen. This was an existing community thing that people maybe didn't know was an asset originally. They're like, okay, it's some grain silos in the middle of town in Greencastle, Indiana. And some people really had a vision of like, what could this be? We could use art to turn this into something really special. And so the after photo shows these just incredible murals that celebrate Greencastle's history. They actually were able to engage community members with the inspiration of what these murals might be. And so it's kind of a crowdsourced idea generation process, which was a really great way to involve the community in the process. But not only that, they brought people together to come up with the ideas for the murals, but on top of that, they also did a really great block party where they closed the road in front of the silos off and just had everyone come and celebrate the unveiling of the murals. And something that we always love to share, a cool little anecdote, is there was a community member who had since moved away from Greencastle and saw what was going on and was like, hey, maybe I'll just show up to the block party and see what it's about. She was so encouraged and excited about just the support for artists, the community coming together, the camaraderie around these murals, that she decided to bring her family back to Greencastle and start engaging in the community there. And I just think that goes to show what just something simple, somewhat simple. I mean, obviously these are huge murals that took a lot of time and effort and planning, but something as simple as paint on a silo can do to create a lot of pride in a community and create a destination. I mean, there's tons of people who want to come to Greencastle, Indiana, just to see these murals now. And so just a really great way to show exactly what Maya said, which is that murals are a community building activity. And then the next one I wanted to show is just an example of how you can take something that is, as Bridget said, maybe an eyesore, something that's forgotten, and use it as space for community members who might not normally engage with each other can come together and sit down. And really that's that's what community is, right? Is bringing people to share in a space and allow for community conversation to happen. And so this is the Oki Alley in Columbia City. You can see what it looks like now. It's just gorgeous. Obviously, a place for seating for local businesses to, you know, put some food trucks out on the courthouse square and just sit down and enjoy each other's company. And not only that, but to go alongside with the community pride aspect, this is an alley that's dedicated to a local community member named Shinzo Oki. He had the first soy sauce factory in Indiana, just a really celebrated community member, and he loved cherry blossoms. And so the community came together, and I think he's since passed away, but they wanted to just really celebrate his history and the history of Columbia City. And so they dedicated this alley to him, and it's just, you know, a really cool space for people to be in Columbia City today. And then am I getting this one, Bridget? I just don't know. I guess I am.
I can take it. I can take it. So as Megan mentioned, this is the kindness mural. You probably saw that on one of our earlier images. Almost all of these projects that we're highlighting have actually featured funding from and support from the Indiana Arts Commission. So what's also really great is there are opportunities to engage with multiple different funding entities at the state level. And so you can see the before image on the right and the after on the left. This mural has really not only been expanding, they had over 27 artists participate in murals that go almost all the way around a small parking area. And what's also interesting when we talk about people coming together and development and well-being and connection, so many people started to gather in these spaces to take images of the spaces that they've now had to create more of a public plaza to encourage more people to come together, to physically be there and to see these murals. Also, what's really interesting is we always talk about connectedness with crowdfunding with these projects. Which is the center point of this program. But when we were separated, we were all over the place during COVID. They actually ran this campaign and crushed their fundraising goals because community members were desperate for ways to connect. And our platform allowed them to connect online, to come together and to raise funds. So I did add this slide in last minute, which is probably also why the slides are all messed up, so apologies. But I wanted to point out, because when we talk about asking your community for financial support, it can feel confusing and overwhelming. This project right here is the Captain Janeway project in Bloomington. It's to honor Captain Janeway, who is a fictional character on Star Trek, but she was fictionally supposed to be born in Indiana sometime in the future. And so this group of dedicated community members got together because they're all Star Trek fans. They got support and approval from CBS. They were a very determined group. But what's interesting and why I chose this is so many people who weren't even Star Trek fans or just tertiary Star Trek fans were so excited about this really unique and interesting project and really art sculpture, which engaged a local artist. And this campaign was actually run by our friends at Artisan Alley in Bloomington. And they really were able to quickly and easily spread the word, and just the uniqueness of it really brought the community together. So I do want to point out, when we're thinking about wellness and the arts, sometimes people don't connect the idea that asking your community for help or support is actually good for them. And we find this information, some of the feedback for why people donate to this crowdfunding campaigns and why people are investing in creative placemaking projects in their communities and neighborhoods. Obviously, IHCDA match is a big motivator, but almost all of the things Maya had shared about the arts, right? And by participating, they're helping others. That makes us feel good. It helps them to improve their neighborhood, right? Even just from an asset development, that's great. They feel more of a sense of community. If they come together to have a goal in mind and they win and they get that goal, there's now a more clear and concrete connection there. Also, learning new things, meeting new people. Some of these people in this group didn't really know each other very well. They just had a shared passion. And so the funding campaign brought them together. And then again, all of those other good things, they believe in the work, the personal satisfaction of donating and participating. So the last two projects we want to share, Megan, let's take these again if that's okay, because I know I
Yeah.
kind of skipped through the others. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I'll just keep going.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
So perfect. So the last projects I want to highlight are both located in Greensburg, Indiana. So the first is the Music and Arts in the District. This campaign raised about $12,500. And this was run by their Arts and Cultural Council. So when we were talking about cultural centers and arts districts, the program is uniquely designed to benefit these kind of developments. They're just simple musical instruments, equipment. You can see like a xylophone, some drums, the really fun, vibrant, colorful piano. And what's also really cool is this little play area is located near an amphitheater that was recently developed. So the idea that you can continue to build on that enthusiasm for the arts and culture that might already exist in your community and do it in creative ways to reach different networks and different groups that might be inspired to be in the space. And then this was actually one of Greensburg's first campaigns, is I think one of our first Creating Places campaigns. And this is the Distinctive Place campaign. They raised, I think, $32,000 to do a series of murals all across Greensburg because they wanted Greensburg to be a distinctive place, to be set apart from other folks. So they engaged local artists and to paint several locations. And what's interesting and what's really exciting is the Music and the Arts in the District project. The previous, excuse me, this was the second campaign. The first was Distinctive Place. So they actually wanted to continue to build on the energy and the momentum from the murals from the recent amphitheater and to add those play elements for small folks. So how do you get started? Go to patronisty.com/creatingplaces, click the Apply Now button. That's going to notify me that you're interested in our funding opportunity. And then we start a casual conversation. I learn about your community, you tell me what your needs are, and then we decide if Creating Places is a good fit. We really believe in that person one-to-one connection because it feeds all of us and is a really good opportunity to empower each other to do the best we can to continue to create beautiful spaces where Hoosiers want to be, they want to be well, and they want to come together. Any questions? Megan, did I miss anything before I open it up for questions?
Oh, that's great.
All right, any questions? It's such a nice pairing to have Maya explain the importance of the work we do. So then we can just come here and say, see, we have money, come join us. And like I said, there are so many resources nearby. If you have questions about a project, we can probably find one within probably 30 or 40 minutes of you to check out. We can connect you directly with other groups and organizations. We see a lot of leadership groups, Purdue extensions, and community development organizations, just like all of you that are doing this work, and finding that kind of that balance between what you need and what your community wants to see.
Absolutely. And if you, okay, I froze for a second. If you all have questions related to Maya's presentation too at this time, or just generally about all of the opportunities and wonderful things that were shared, now is the time. You can enter it in the chat or come off mute.
I did see someone's question earlier about bridging the the gap between art, food, and wellness. One project that just came to mind is Rethink in Terre Haute. It is a nonprofit that it really works to recycle and reuse and recycle local products. But they had a greenway in front of their house that is on a very busy road. I'm sorry, I said house. They're building. I got excited because it was a house. But what they want to do is create a community garden in that space. But they also wanted to have some visual cues that this is a welcoming and interesting space. So the first campaign they ran with us was Community Rocks. And it was a vegetable garden. And they painted rocks in brightly colored colors, obviously, and included vegetables on them so that passersby could be notified, oh, there's something interesting here. And so obviously having access to work in, grow foods in a garden, but also having artistic elements that might be interesting is just one example of an easy way you can add those multiple elements. And with creating places, we always want you to have more elements that might be give folks an opportunity to engage and participate. But that scale is significantly smaller. I think their first campaign was only about 10 or 15,000. So they got another 10 or 15,000 from IHTDA. So hundreds of dollars, and they have a beautiful new lawn that is have to foods and to have these beautiful, well-painted rocks. Next.
How fun. Yes, we have all sorts of folks who work in the food space, gardening, farmers markets. So those ideas are fantastic. And I'm sure a lot of wheels are turning as to how to connect it all.
Yeah, I'll just echo Maya's comment in the chat that if you do have an idea that you're interested in and you want to brainstorm some ideas, just let us know. Like, you don't have to come to us when you have your idea solidified. If you want some specific examples, if you want, something, hey, we're interested in something in this area, but we're not sure exactly how that might fit. You can let us know. We've seen such a wide variety. I think this does not have to do necessarily with arts, but we had a project several years ago that transformed an old rail car, box car, into public restrooms. And we just had someone come to us this week and say, hey, has anyone ever done something like transforming a box car into public restrooms? We're like, we have in fact seen that before. So you would be surprised at the unique projects across the state, and we're happy to brainstorm ideas if you have something, you need some sort of intersection of a couple of different things. And Bridget obviously just gave a great example. So if you want to run some ideas by us, you can definitely shoot us an email, get on the phone with us, and we can talk to you about that.
Yeah, between the two of us, the two organizations, we've collaborated on a lot of things together, or we refer projects back and forth to each other all the time. But between the two of us, we've seen a lot, I'll put it that way. And so again, our scrapbook of sort of mood boards and inspiration is pretty extensive, and we're happy to share with you, here's some ideas, and take a look, or just kind of help think about, again, where you are and what the assets are. What's so great about what Creating Places is the building on assets, and that's what we see. When we see communities have success around mural creation or public art programming or community events, they're generally built on assets that exist in the community. So that's where we always encourage folks to start, which is to think about who's there. What do you have to be proud of? I mean, you wouldn't think a fictional character from a television show that was born like 200 years from now is an asset, but actually it is. And that, I don't know if you mentioned that or not, but that sculpture, that bust, is on a walking trail. So it provides a point, as people walk, to kind of stop and reflect and see that. And we see a lot of public art and performance opportunities and things along trails, because again, it can help reinforce that wellness that wellness can be fun, right? Wellness can be entertaining and creative and all those good things.
Yeah, Pete, go for it.
Sure, I've got a question. I know, I think sometimes people are challenged by kind of understanding how to contract with artists because they're sole practitioners many times, and it's just not well understood. Do you have templates to help people do that and guidance?
Sure, we can absolutely help, and I imagine you guys do as well. Do you, Megan and Bridget? If not, we certainly do.
Yeah, we have some assets. Generally it's referral, and we have kind of a list of past artists and organizations that folks have used, but we also always send folks to the Arts Commission website as well. So it's a nice back and forth.
Yeah, but absolutely, and again, we've got templates and things to think about. Again, depends on the project, right? So if it's a creation of a piece of art, that's a different kind of looking contract than say for a performance and so forth. But we still appreciate thinking about contracts versus a handshake, because sometimes we see communities and artists just rely on a handshake, and that doesn't protect either party. So we love that you're thinking about that, and we're happy to provide some examples.
Yeah, great question. Thanks for that, Pete. Okay. Any other questions, or as ideas have been turning, does anyone want to share something that has come to mind, or have your communities been involved in any of these projects that were mentioned, and you want to share your experience? Okay. Well, if there are no other questions, or if questions or ideas and such come up later, let us know. I will be sending out next week the recording and the resources along with all of the contact information. So as you're thinking and maybe something comes to mind, feel free to engage later on. But thank you all so much. Thank you, Megan, Bridget, and Maya, for sharing such this awesome information and how it relates to public health and food and wellness. And we will see you all at our next webinar. We have a webinar set for August 22nd, and Illinois SNAP Ed is going to be coming and sharing more about how their state engages in a lot of the physical activity, nutrition, policy systems, and environmental change. So join us then, and we'll send out information later on. So thank you all. Have a great day.
Thank you,
Thanks,
everyone.
everybody.
Thanks. Bye.